Thank you so much for joining to One More con Mary Rabago, now also in English. This is Journalism with a Purpose, and we have two topics that are affecting our community so strongly, and we need to get informed and educated. And we have a little twist to one of the topics today. We're going to be joined by kids and their point of view on gun control, gun safety. That is one of the topics that we're going to discuss today. Later on in the show, we're going to have an amazing story of survival with breast cancer. Those two topics are so strong in the month of October because of all the violence and difficult situations going around our country, but particularly it's also the month of awareness against breast cancer, and we are going to learn about those topics. So from now on, remember, my request every time we are joining this conversation is for please share a link so more people can join the conversation, more people can be educated and informed on these topics that we're discussing today. So I'm going to ask you to share the link of Mary Rabago Productions and ask your friends to join our conversation by inviting them to this link. And it is my honor today to welcome to our studio Jerry Hill from Arizona for Gun Safety, founder and CEO. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me today.
I'm very excited to have you here because you have an amazing story. There's a purpose why you're involved in this organization, why you created, and the awareness you bring to the community also.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, it'll be 23 years ago next week on October 18th. My younger brother, Officer Adam Hills, he was on vacation with my older brother and family members on a hunting trip, and the hunting party was ambushed by a gentleman who had mental illness and a assault rifle, and he was ambushed and shot. He was 27 years old. He left very young. He left an 18-month-old daughter, and my sister-in-law was 5 months pregnant with his son. Those kids are now grown adults. And about 6 months later, I saw a small article in the Arizona Republic from the Brady campaign in Washington asking for volunteers for a Mother's Day project. And I thought, I can do that. And I called them up and I explained my story, and they put me on hold, and this lovely lady came on the phone, and it was Sarah Brady, one of the co-founders, Jim Brady's wife, who is President Reagan's press secretary, who was shot in the assassination attempt. And I explained my story, and she asked me to go to Washington to testify about the original assault weapons ban. And I went. And that was my first experience about being a lobbyist and an advocate and learning about gun violence and what gun policy was like in this country. And through that and their help, I started Arizonans for Gun Safety here in Arizona. And I've been working with that, helped pass a law called Shannon's Law, which made random fire illegal, along with Shannon's parents, Otis and Lori Smith, and have been working on this for, as I said, almost 23 years now.
23 years. So funny to hear that, and I say that with a grain of salt, that I've been reporting on these issues for so long in my career and never had the honor to meet you personally. So, you know, it's a perfect timing because the situation, the loss of your brother and that tragic that your family had to endure created this hope and this awareness for the whole country, if a particular coming out of our state where, you know, gun control is a huge issue and gun violence is also a big issue. So thank you so much for your work. We're going to be talking to you a little bit more about this, but I wanted to introduce to you and our audience today also, Jerry, two kids that are making a lot of waves in our community. They're part of El Taller del Foie, and it's Victoria Ábalos. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Welcome, Victoria. How are you?
Really good. How are you today?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Victoria and her late father, we used to work together in Univision many years ago, so it's an honor now to be sharing the mic with you, Victoria.
Thank
and
you
I'm
very
sure
much.
Your dad is smiling wherever he is right now for that aspect. Now, we also have with us Jacob or Jacobo. ¿Jacobo?
Yeah, I prefer.
Jacobo, qué bueno. No me gusta el Mary, me gusta el Mari también, así que estamos bien. Jacobo Ibarra, also from El Taller El Foie.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining. Now, by hearing the story that Jerry just shared with us, what are the first thoughts that come to your mind?
My thoughts that came in my mind, like as she was saying, like it's sad, like what happened, and like that it's not fair. Like things are not fair sometimes, and like it's really scary. You never know if you're safe around, so it's not good to have guns around.
Now, Victoria, you guys talk a lot about controversial issues within your show, the radio show, El Taller de la Foi, but you use this platform as to educate other kids in their family about issues like gun control. What do you think when you hear in the news stories like the one Jerry just shared with us about, the loss of her brother, when you hear stories about what recently happened in Vegas, during that concert, when you hear about gun violence within the schools, what comes to your mind and what is it that you guys conversate among each other?
Well, the thing that comes to my mind first is actually sadness, because there's some people out there who don't deserve this pain, and there's also people out there that can't think twice because they're probably going through something really harsh in their life, and I think, well, they probably deserve the exact same respect. It's just maybe the people who have the wrong weapons, they have them on them, and it's people with disabilities or mental health problems.
Now, when you hear about gun control, what do you know about gun control, Jacob? Jacobo.
Well, what I believe it means, like, gun control is like in the United States, like how to like take it out. I believe, like, what rights do you need to like take out a gun? Well, that's
buy a gun legally.
Yeah, maybe like you need some like an ID or some stuff like that.
You don't know what the process is at this young age. What about yourself, Victoria? What do you know about gun control?
Well, the thing I know about gun control is that our country, I think for our country, it's important to have weapons because the companies and also the owners, while they sell more guns, they get more money, which is brought into our country. Well, I don't think they should ban guns, but actually ask people for their information before they just give it out to some random people.
It's one of the amendments, right? For our Constitution, it gives the right to bear arms. It's important for us to have the right. But do you think that we are having the control in that right, meaning the right people are getting the guns, or we are missing something as a country in its law when it comes to gun control?
I think we're actually missing something because some people who sell them, they only think about selling them to random people. They should ask for information exact to tell. For example, let's say this person wants to sell a gun to a guy, and he has to ask exactly his information and the things that he has. Does he have like mental problems or anything that's going on? Because they should be aware of who they're actually giving it to.
Well, we have a lot of people joining our conversation. We're going to ask you to please share this link and share your comments and questions for our guests tonight. The first topic of our show today is gun control, and the second would be breast cancer. So start thinking about, the issues that you would like to conversate and get more education on it. Ana Flores says, hello, thank you for all the information, for talking about breast cancer awareness. God bless you. Ana is from Chicago, and she's also a survivor of breast cancer. So please don't forget to join our conversation later on during the show, Ana. Ria Luz, good job, Mari. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Sandra Patarrayo. Gun control, we need it to check people, profile mentally issues, public records, and family law. So there's a lot of people giving input, but I see the common denominator here, Jerry, being the lack of true information when it comes to gun control. Or am I wrong?
No, I think you're very right. So let's qualify about what it does take to buy a gun in this country, okay? Let's start there. So what we have is we do have something called the Brady background check system, and it was put in right around the time our brother was killed, actually. And what that means is if you go to a licensed gun dealer, like a gun shop, who is a federally licensed dealer, they are required to do a federal background check, and they do. They have to fill out paperwork, and they dial a phone number at the FBI, and there's a national database called the NICS system. And you are run through, and there are things called prohibited possessors, and there's reasons why you can't buy a gun. If you're a convicted felon, if you are convicted of a felony domestic violence, if you have been adjudicated mentally ill, and that's just not somebody who maybe is on prescription for medication or something, but has gone to a court and been found a danger to themselves or other. So there are reasons why you can't. If you pass a background check, then you can legally buy a gun. The problem is that only applies to federally licensed dealers. So if you go on the internet or to a swap meet or your neighbor or a gun show, something like that, they're not covered under that law, and they can sell a gun to anybody without a background check or checking anything. So what that means is 30 to 40% of all gun sales in this country are completely unregulated. So that's one of the really big problems right there to start with. So when we talk about gun laws and gun policy, what we need to do is have universal background checks. Some states have done that, California, New York, Massachusetts. And what we have found is that states that have done that have much lower rates of gun deaths and injuries. But you know, people can drive across state lines. So what we know is, like in California, that has much stronger laws, what they do is they come to Arizona, buy the guns here at our gun shows or at our swap meets, and take the guns back. We always hear about, well, you know, look at gun laws don't work. Look at Chicago, right? We hear about Chicago all the time. Well, first of all, Chicago really doesn't rank in the top 10 as dangerous cities. There's actually 10 other cities that are much more dangerous than Chicago. We just don't hear about them. But 60% of all the guns used in crimes in Chicago come from Indiana, because Illinois has strong gun laws, Indiana doesn't. And so that's one of the problems we're talking about when we talk about those kind of laws.
And I think educating the community, having this kind of conversation and bringing it home, that is the purpose. That is our journalism with a purpose. Bringing this kind of topics, how it does affect our household, our families, our community, our neighborhoods. And talking about that, Senator Catherine Miranda is joining our Facebook Live saying, "Hola, Mari, thank you for covering these important issues. Thank you so much for joining our conversation and for the great work you do also in our state level." So thank you so much. Now, when you talk about advocating for these issues, you've been doing this for 23 years. What have changed in this last 23 years from when you started until where we are right now? We see that the violence with guns is definitely increasing, but also the regulations have changed. Also the efforts to bring awareness have changed. Are we missing the train when it comes to focusing on mental issues and the correlation with gun control? Would that be the difference?
No, and I think we need to be really careful about over-connecting mental health issues with gun violence. Yes, because even with these mass shootings, when they happen, we find there's a much stronger correlation between gun violence and domestic violence than gun violence and mental health. And when you really look at that, people with mental health illness are actually usually the victims of violence, not the perpetrators. So we have to be very, very careful not to stigmatize a whole group of people and say they're the ones that are causing the violence.
Wonderful.
Most of the time, they're the ones who are the victims. And we really have to look at who is perpetuating this. So let's look at gun ownership in this country. 3% of Americans own 50% of the guns.
Wait a second, can you repeat that?
I'm going to repeat that again. 3% of Americans own 50% of the guns. That means that there are fewer households in this country actually own guns than before, but the ones who do own a lot of them, and they own some pretty strong firepower.
I want to talk a little bit in that regard, and please, I would like your feedback as kids on this regards too. So the Constitution of this country defends the right to bear arms. That's one of the bases, you know, of the laws of this country.
The Second Amendment, yes.
Exactly. But at the same time, that amendment is somehow misinterpreted in a way that the type of guns or, you know, weapons that you can acquire, or how much you need to actually defend your house and the security of your family. Am I interpreting this wrong?
Well, every amendment to the Constitution is subject to reasonable restrictions.
Exactly.
I mean, the Supreme Court has told us that. You know, we have free speech, but you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. And the Brady, like the Brady Bill and things like that, we know that we can put reasonable restrictions on the Second Amendment. So things like background checks, things like requiring licensing or better permitting for concealed carry and things like that, those have all been found to be constitutional. No one's talking about taking guns away from people or violating your Second Amendment rights. There's a lot we can do. One of the things that makes it very difficult is, so we would like to see that. The other thing that we know can make a really big difference is what they call extreme risk protection orders. And this gets back to mental health too. So if someone is having a mental health crisis or something and they're over the age of 18 years old, it's very hard for the family to get them into treatment or make them take their meds. And if they want to buy a gun or if they have a gun in the home, it's very hard for them to get that out. So now some states have passed these things called extreme risk mental health orders, where the families can go to a judge and say, you know, right now we need this person to not be able to have access to guns, and that it's ordered, you know, the protection order is issued, and that the guns are removed, and they are temporarily put in the background check system that they're prohibited to buy guns. And this is a very powerful tool to stop, especially in mental health and suicide, because we got to remember too that when we look at statistics, 321 Americans a day are shot. That is every single day in this country. 90 of them die, and 230 survive their wounds. Here, and
That's dramatic.
This is a huge public health crisis in this country. In Arizona alone, gun violence costs Arizonans $1.9 billion a year.
In tax revenue.
And yes, and that's the cost of health care, that's the cost of law enforcement and locking them up, that is people's lost earnings and lost potential. And 2/3 of all that gun violence is really suicides. So we really need to talk about how do we stop people from having easy access to guns when they are undergoing those kind of mental health crises. But we also need to talk about, you know, holding gun owners responsible from storing their guns safely so that children don't get a hold of them, you know, which is another huge problem. We also need to make sure that people and domestic abusers get their guns taken away, because, you know, women have a huge problem. They're being killed by their domestic partners. You know, that's what real gun violence looks like. As horrific as mass shootings like Virginia Tech and Aurora and Columbine and Las Vegas are, you know, and I have friends, personal friends, who have either been shot and survived or lost loved ones in all of those shootings. As bad as they are, we can't forget that 321 of our fellow citizens are shot every single day, and most of them never ever make the news.
I would like to hear your point of view after hearing the conversation and the topics, the angles, that the statistics that Jerry is sharing with us. What do you think, Victoria? What could be the solution in our country for this violence with guns?
Well, first of all, I think that they should at least try to think twice about who they're giving the guns to, because the only thing they're thinking is about the economy of our country, which means more guns they sell, more money the company and the owners get, which for us is not that fair, because if they just hand them off to someone, there's so many lives lost each day in our country, which is like really sad, because many of those people didn't do nothing in their lives and then they just get shot all of a sudden.
So in other words, Jacobo, what Victoria is telling us, that the modems seem to be making profit, you know, for these companies that fabricate the guns or the weapons within our country, and there's not enough emphasis put in the gun control or who would be able to buy those guns. Now, when you hear the stories and you go to school every day and you hear the news of, you know, another shooting within the school, do you feel safe? Do you feel scared? Are you fearful of that replicating within your school?
Well, I don't even have words right now, because it's really sad what she's like talking about, because like I don't feel safe like when you go to school, you go to the store, because you never know what's gonna happen. If there's gonna be a shooting, like if I'm safe or my like family safe, you know. So like it's really scary. Like it's not safe out there. It's a crazy world. But I require like, there's crazy people out there that they don't know what they're doing, and like they should like not give the guns to them, because they should require more stuff to take out a gun.
No, there being a lot of initiatives trying to propose to allow guns within schools. Would you guys feel comfortable if there were more people armed within your school, or no, or the opposite?
Well, like I really don't know if like you never know if you're safe.
Now, ideas or you know, lab projects presented like that here, like in Arizona, when there was a initiative trying to give arms to teachers within community college and things, would that be the solution that we're looking for, or it's more of an awareness and education that is needed within our country?
You know, the answer to gun violence isn't more guns.
Exactly.
You know, certainly the answer to the opioid crisis isn't more drugs. The answer to an alcoholism isn't more drinks. So, no, we don't advocate more guns as the answer to that problem. Again, it is really talking about we need to make sure that we keep guns away from the hands of dangerous people who we don't have them. And there are ways we can do that, and we know that. Kids should be able to go to school and go to the playground and things like that and feel safe in their environments without having to worry about armed teachers and things like that. We've had instances where the shooting at the community college in Oregon, they do allow guns on campus there. And there were students who were ex-military who had guns in the classroom in their backpacks, right? It didn't stop the mass shooting. Right? There was a case over the weekend in Texas where they allow guns in campus, where there was a student who had drugs, and one of the campus police officers went to arrest him, and he shot and killed a campus police officer. So, no, we don't think that guns are a smart idea around campus. We fought those bills very hard, and we were very proud to say that we have managed to keep guns off of our college campuses, and we just don't think that's a good mix and a good solution. Again, it seems to be the gun lobby's answer to everything is, well, arm more people. And Arizona has some of the weakest gun laws in the country. We have some of the weakest concealed carry laws in the country. Doesn't require anything. I have a concealed carry permit. I went through the class because I wanted to know what it was like. And my girlfriend and I got a 2-for-1 a Groupon.
Oh my God.
And we went and sat in the basement of a gun store out in Mesa. I never touched a gun. I sat for 3 hours and listened to the very nice lady read off her clipboard about all the rules and regulations. I was fingerprinted. I passed. I have my permit. I never had to touch a gun. I never had to show I knew how to load one or handle one safely. Never had to shoot one, or actually. But according to the state of Arizona, I now am fully licensed and trained to carry a concealed weapon everywhere it's legal in the state of Arizona. That is ridiculous.
Crazy.
Exactly. So we think that if you want to be able to carry a firearm like that, the requiring and the training and the licensing should be way, way stricter and more than that, certainly with that. And right now, the gun lobby has got a bill in Congress at the national level called National Reciprocity, which would require that states that have much stronger laws, like Massachusetts and California, would allow people who have licenses and permits from Arizona and other states to carry. So basically it would make a national standard of no standard. Everyone could carry concealed weapons anywhere from any state. And it's a terrible law. Law enforcement thinks it's a terrible idea, but the gun lobby is very powerful, so that's something we're fighting.
We have some comments here. Lorenzo Sierra, councilman for Avondale, says, it is very important to remember that the first 3 words of the Second Amendment are a well-regulated. These days, it's near impossible to enact when the most common sense regulations.
Exactly. It's much tougher than it would have been. When I started doing this in the late 90s, we could work in a very bipartisan way. I helped write and pass Shannon's Law. I worked with then state legislative Gabby Giffords. Ironically, the last bill we wrote and passed together was in 2001. It was a bill about mental health records.
In 2009, she's affected.
And in 2000, and she was shot. And so we used to be able to do that, and we used to get things. The gun lobby here is very strong. It is very difficult. They've passed preemption, which means that cities and states, cities can't make their own laws. They can't do anything that's stronger at the state level, so that makes it very, very tough in Arizona.
Well, these are the opportunities, not challenges, but the opportunities that we have as a community to make a difference, as a citizens. And this kind of conversation hopefully will trigger, to join forces, to get educated, to get informed on that aspect and do something about it. And one of my editors from my social media posted as myself, so I don't know if it's Candy or someone else. Oh, that was Mr. Jarvis Berry, saying everyone that buy a gun should have to complete a training course first, which is exactly what Jerry just illustrated here. But unfortunately, within that training course, it's not really making you capable at really handling with safety a gun, for what you expressed to us.
Well, exactly, and I think there's two things there. Is this was for a concealed carry permit, but there are states that do require you to take a training course to buy a gun. In Arizona, you can walk in, buy a gun anywhere, and not know which end is which, and you don't have to show any type of that. So absolutely, you've got a lot of untrained people walking around out there with guns.
Discussing this type of topic with kids your age, how will you address that to them? What will you tell them and their parents for what you've been hearing in this conversation? How important it is to get educated when it comes to gun control?
Well, I think that there's some people out there who have guns in their houses, but I don't think they should have them because you don't know if you have like a kid that's like really small and like they don't know what it is and they accidentally like, you know, they press a trigger and boom, like it shoots. Or they also might have someone that's like over the age of 18 or maybe between the teenage years that might be suffering from mental illness, and well, they don't know what they're doing sometimes, so they go probably opening doors, and all of a sudden they find the gun and they might end up hurting someone, which that's why I wouldn't recommend people having guns in their houses.
From your point of view. Jacobo?
Yes.
We have 30 seconds.
Well, like, the parents should teach their kids that guns are not like toys, because like you know, like, if the parent has a gun in like in their bed, they might think it's a toy and they could like load in, like start a shooting, you know. So it's dangerous to have a gun in your house. So like, I believe that we shouldn't have guns in our house because it could be dangerous. They might think it's a toy.
Well, thank you so much for your input, both of you guys. Thank you for being here. Jerry, we are about to be at the end of our segment, but I would like for you to do a call of action to all the Arizonans, to all the people watching us from different states. What can we do at home to make a difference in this process? You've been investing 23 years of your life creating a change.
Well, if you're a parent, the best thing you can do is if there's guns in your home, make sure that they're locked up, and to ask if there are guns in the homes where your kids go visit and play. That's the basic thing you can do immediately. Second of all, to change policy is going to be tough in this country, so get involved. Sign up with any local organization you can. Reach out to your local officials and start demanding them that they start supporting sensible gun legislation, you know, background checks, accountability, and help make a difference, because we can do this. The majority is on our side, and we just need to speak up and demand that they start listening to us and not the gun lobby.
Thank you so much. I think the message is very clear today. This is a topic that we need to conversate within our households, and our family members, our neighbors, our community members at work, because it affects all of us. I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing all these years, and especially bringing this kind of awareness to our community. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for the conversation today.
Gracias,
Thanks,
Victoria.
kids.
Thank you so much for being here with us, guys. El Taller del FUA. Follow them on social media. Also, Jacobo,
please.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
And
for the
can-
invitation.
No, thank you for having us here with us today. And also we have Jerry Hill from Arizona for Gun Safety, and you can reach yourself within the website, also on social media, correct?
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Rhonda Kegel. She'll be talking about her powerful story when it comes to breast cancer. Ya volvemos.
It has been a wonderful experience. I think that having the right level of information at all times to understand how together we can do a better job is great. You guys are great partners, and you took the time to understand why the campaign was important.
Is engage the community, so it becomes a conversation. It becomes a community project. When you call people together, thousands of people will come. There's no other agency can do that.
Mary's viewers are very loyal, very dedicated people to her, and so they trust her.
Mary Rabago Productions was much more timely, and the quality of the product when it was all said and done was fantastic.
We really do need a production company that understands not only the language, the culture, but has the professionalism we would support Mary Rabago's production in a professional manner. We know the quality, we know she is professional, and she has a team of people that are caring and very sensitive to the Latino issues in the United States.
My friend, do you want your children to fly as high as the eagles? With education, everything is possible. That is why Imagine Elementary College is the best option in the area. They provide the tools necessary to make sure your children are successful. Free transportation. Your children deserve the best, and that starts with a solid education. They provide classes that practice STEM, music, and sports. That is why I, Mary Rabago, recommend Imagine Elementary College, a free charter school. Call today, 520-723-5391, 520-723-5391. The basis of success is a good education for our children. That is why Imagine Prep College prepares them to succeed in the fields of greater demand in our economy, like science, technology, and engineering. With advanced academic instruction, choose Imagine Prep College for your children. Give them the best gift you could give them, a quality education for free. Call today, 520-424-2790, 520-424-2790. I, Mary Rabago, recommend it. Thank you so much for continuing with that. This is Journalism with a Purpose con Mary Rabago, now also in English. Remember to join us every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here at Mary Rabago Productions Facebook. We do the Facebook Live, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can find us at 11:90 a.m. also. And our purpose is to talk about those topics that are not the popular, the common denominator in our conversation, but they're the ones needed for the growth and empowerment of our community, but particular our families. Now, the second half of today's show is one that is very close to my heart. I remember through my years of journalist reporting so many tragic loss of beautiful women, mothers, daughters, in many aspects to breast cancer, particularly within our community. The lack of education, resources, information is a silent killer. And today, I am honored to have with us Rhonda Kegel. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you.
And I want to know, where do I start? You have such an impressive resume. You have done so many things in your career. You know, you're a community advocate. You are a cancer survivor, which is the topic that you are here joining us. You are a writer. You're now the lead communicator for Imagine Schools, but particular on your free time, you're wife to a councilman. And that keeps you on your toes, doesn't it?
We keep busy.
That's a good thing.
It's good to be busy.
I would like to talk to the friend today. I don't want to talk to all those titles and those hats that you interchange and juggle daily in such an impressive way. I would like to talk from the heart today, and I would like to know, what was it exactly, that moment when you got the diagnosis?
So for me, it was, I think it's important to have context. When I received my diagnosis, I heard it from the framework in which I understood cancer. And for me, cancer had been the disease that took...
With cancer. But at this time, it hit home a lot closer to you. Not only the family, it was your body.
It did.
Part of what makes us feminine. You know, one of the signs that makes us so pretty, so sexy, an integral part, but also one of the areas of the womanhood that is attacked so much, and that we as women do not take care of that. Was this a really wake-up call for you?
When I got the diagnosis, I was in disbelief, quite frankly, and my thought was, this is, and to your point, now it was my body, and it was not me that was going to be fighting for someone I loved. It was going to be me having to decide, am I willing to fight that hard for myself? And am I willing to put my family through what I went through when my husband was battling cancer? Was I willing to go through the disfigurement? Was I willing to go through the illness? And there is a stigma around breast cancer. Was I
Death sentence.
Yes.
In many ways.
Was I willing to live that? And it wasn't a question I could easily answer given my background and my experience with cancer.
Now, Rhonda, when it came to decision making, what was the hardest decision after that diagnosis when it comes to coming home, talking to your family, to your husband? And for those people that don't know, you are the mother of a beautiful daughter too, so you know where change.
So I was in mom mode, and that was to reassure my husband, my daughter, and my stepsons, they're step in name only, my sons, that I...
Surprise me. For those that we know closely, Rhonda Kegel, why is that not a surprise? Now, that is also one of the biggest mistakes most women make, particularly after getting that diagnosis. We still are in our role of caregivers, of taking care, of making sure everybody's okay. But that particular time in life and moment, it's you.
And so the part about that is my daughter, who lives and works in Washington, D.C., she got on a plane. She and my husband were co-conspirators, and they tag-teamed on me, and they said, "You're going to have the best doctors. You will be okay." They went into let's fix mom. Mom's going to be fine because we need her to be fine. They immediately got me an appointment with Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And there was, to your point, how do you know whether or not you've passed on the genes? Well, I know because they did all of the testing on my genes. They did all of that kind of really in-depth to say, is there a possibility that I'm passing this on to my daughter? Never say never, but in terms of the genes, the good news is no.
That's the good result.
That is the good news for me.
Rhonda, was there ever a wild, part of your wild imagination to think that you would become a victim of breast cancer?
I don't choose to look at myself as a victim.
Waiting for that.
If you, the one thing I learned that I have power over is my attitude and how I approach it. And I refuse to let this disease define any more of my life and take any more of my life and my body than it already has. And so for me, there was a moment in the early course of Cancer Treatment Centers going through all of the tests, and the next appointment was for me to say, yes, I'm ready to move forward with treatment. And for me, what was initially thought by my initial doctor to be very early stage non-invasive cancer ultimately turned out to be stage 3 invasive cancer that had already gone into my lymph nodes. And my daughter was sitting with me, and I just said, honey, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I am willing to go through treatment, put you through treatment, what that means to the family. And she began to cry. And she said, Mama, I've already lost one parent to cancer. Please, Mama, won't you fight? I can't lose you too. And so
how could you say no after those words?
That's exactly what made the decision for me. And I said, by God, then I'm going to fight. But if I'm fighting, then you can damn well bet that I'm winning, because I will win this fight.
So we can say by witnessing your recovery, your fight through this situation with cancer, that attitude, mental position when it comes to fighting any disease, but particular cancer, is a must.
I believe it's a must, but I also am not foolish enough to think you can fight cancer on your own. It takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to fight cancer. And my husband, my family, my friends, it took all of them and then some to make it okay for me, so that I had the strength to fight.
What has been the blessing in disguise in this process from the moment that you got the diagnosis to today?
I think there's a lot of life lessons that you learn, but there's also a lot of opportunity to learn more about who you are as an individual as you go through this. And the truth is, what I found is when all else gives way, faith. Faith is the thing that provides that inner core for me that allows me to get up and do it one more time, one more treatment, one more day, one more surgery. But then you also learn that you're a whole lot more resilient than you think.
Or the credit that you give yourself for it, I can imagine.
Probably a little of both.
Well, being a witness of your strength, because I want to share with you guys, I got the opportunity to visit Rhonda in her last surgery, which is just few days ago, and by seeing you and hearing you here, nobody can even imagine what you've been going through the last few weeks. So for that, I mean, my most deepest admiration, because it takes courage, it takes mental strength and ability, and also the faith that you so much hold on to. I remember seeing you in a hospital bed just a few days after your surgery, and all the conversation that she would have was focused on me. How are you doing? What can I do for you? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You're in the hospital bed. So that it is what Rhonda Kegel is about, always doing for others. So when you say that you had to focus on yourself, I find it very hard to believe, because it had to be people surrounding you, forcing you to do that, because that's the natural instinct that you have, to take care of everybody and their mama, as I would say, correct? Taking care of them.
And I think part of it is also, as you journey through, I hate that word, but as you go through cancer, the various parts of treatment, you have to look inward, at least 4 times, for seasons of it. It takes everything and then some to go through the treatment. The treatment is brutal. And to go through that, you have to turn inward. And that also allows you to replenish what you need and who you are, but then it also allows you to have the strength to reach back out. Because for me, it's about, if I'm fighting for my life, then I'm fighting for my life. And not just my ability to stand upright and breathe, but I'm fighting for the things and the people that matter to my life and make it meaningful. And for me, that's people like you, people like my family, my colleagues, who I can reach to and say, how can I help? How can I support? If there's a cause or an issue, there's a few of them that you know I'm passionate about. What do we do about this? I don't care if I'm in a hospital bed. I've got fingers. I can type. I can email.
Energizing Bunny is just too small to describe this woman, and the potential and the energy and the passion that she has for everything. And I want to share some of the comments that people are giving about you, close friends that know the struggle, that have known the battle that you have been facing this few months. Martin Perez Jr., thank you, Mari, for your leadership. Saludos a Rhonda, a great friend and an inspiration. That's just a few words of how you are described within our community. We have Corina Chavez Madruga says, Rhonda, you are the, okay, help me with this word, epitome of strength. I love you to pieces. Oh. So, and then we have Angelica Macias, laws should be set in motion to protect people from gun violence. Thank you for that comment. We have Pamela Starr. Does your girlfriend have a talk show? I guess that is not directed for us, that conversation, but this is particular. I would like to know, as a woman, as a mother, as a member of this community, that no one is exempt from cancer, from that tragic diagnosis that you got that particular day. That is a date I'm sure is going to live in your memory forever. And just like the victories that you've been having against cancer, what was the most difficult moment through that treatment, through the process? What was that moment that you just wanted to give up? Because I'm assuming, as strong as you are, there had to be a moment where you did not want to continue with that.
There were a couple of moments. A lot of them because the chemo cocktail that they gave me was so debilitating, not just physically, but mentally. It caused terrible dark blackness to be in my brain. That's the only way I can describe it. I was not myself. I was absolutely catatonically depressed during that portion of it, and it was chemical from all of the chemo cocktail. There was a time during that where I just said no more. I can't. But I think the moment for me that was probably the most personally devastating was after my mastectomy and in looking at my disfigured body and knowing that Lorenzo and I had been married for just a very short time. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm a freak. And I said, we're going to make this okay. You can leave. We're going to restore this. Nobody will ever think worse of you. You can go. I am not going to expect you to stand by this for the rest of your life. And he just looked at me, and it was probably one of the very few times in life where he could get away with it. And he said, be quiet and sit down. And he said, I love you for you, not for what you look like, not for what your body has or doesn't have, or what it will have later on. He said, I love you for you. And I had to decide, am I going to choose to love me for who I am now in this process, who I will be as I go through the process, and who I will be when all of this is truly in my rearview mirror and it's something for me to draw from. And that was a really hard moment.
I'm a huge advocate that your story has power. I don't get tired of repeating that, because I can just imagine what a lot of the women, a lot of the families that have experienced breast cancer with someone in the family member felt by hearing your words right now. How many couples, they were not as strong enough like you and Lorenzo. The type of love that is represented there, how many women wish they can have that, without even going through the painful process of breast cancer. How blessed are you, Rhonda, with the people that surround you? How blessed are you by experiencing this fight with breast cancer and coming better on the other side?
I'm enormously blessed, more than I certainly deserve. I think the truth is, whether it's breast cancer or any other kind of potentially life-threatening situation, it gives you a different perspective on life and what's important. And thankfully, Lorenzo never wavered in that love for me and that assurance to me. He made it a point over and over to find ways to reaffirm me as I went through this process. And I think we're at a place now where we can laugh about it. We can make light of things that maybe 18 months ago I couldn't have made light of in this process. And as we continue to journey through this, I'm sure there will be more of those moments. But I think the blessing is realizing that when we said in sickness and in health, he meant it. And that is a real blessing.
Now, Rhonda, it's been how many days since your last surgery? Just help me here.
It's been 3 weeks.
3 weeks. You would think with the kind of high level intensity of surgery that you have, by now you should still be at rest, correct? Or am I wrong? Not to put you on the spot or anything like that.
I'm probably pushing the envelope just a little bit, yes.
Now, what is that force? Why is it so important for you to not waste time in sharing your story? And what is the purpose behind that with all the women that are still going through this process, that just got the same diagnosis that one of the most fearful moments of any woman's life, in particular for those family members that do not know how to help, how to approach, and how make it easier for their loved one in this situation?
Well, for me, part of the push, the drive is if I fought for my life, then I'm going to live my life. And that means making a difference. I firmly believe that we have to make the pain pay. And if I was going to go through all of this pain, then by God, it's going to accomplish something for someone else. I did not go through all of this just to sit on the lessons I learned. I'm going to share those, and I'm going to hope that they are impactful and life-changing for others. So that I think that's the first answer. The second answer for me is what I do professionally. It really matters to me. I advocate and I speak on behalf of children who live in abject poverty, many of them. And 60% of all of our schools nationwide, we have 57 of them, these are urban schools. And the students are relying on me and on our principals and on our leadership team to be there for them, being their voice at the State House, legislatively, working and fighting for policies that make it easier for them to have access to a really great, high-quality education that gives them a shot in life. And that matters to me.
And that is the passion behind Rhonda Kegos and the strength that she has to fight cancer and whatever comes your way. Now, I want to go a little bit more personal. We're coming towards the end of our show, but I want to know, having such a fast-paced lifestyle, have you always had? Because that's the person you are. You are a mover and shaker, and you will make everything happen, and you're doing and doing for others. What has changed before and after the cancer for Rhonda?
I'm having to rethink that pace. I have to look at energy as a finite resource, and I have to decide where I choose to invest that. Where can I have the most impact by making an investment? And in some ways, I'm having to balance a little bit my professional life and my personal life. And sometimes that means I'm not 24/7 anymore with my professional life.
Quality time rings a bell?
Quality time does ring a bell. And I think part of it is really deciding what is it that I am going to find great joy in doing. If something I'm doing is not bringing me great joy, then I'm not supposed to be doing that, because life is too short and I've worked too hard to beat cancer with the grace of God and the help of doctors and my family and my friends. And so there has to be a balance now.
I love that, and I know it's resonating with a lot of the people watching and listening to us right now. We have Ana Flores says, Rhonda, I had a lampectomy and felt the same. It's so hard, and as women, emotionally, physically, God is good and has a purpose for us to share our story. God bless you with lots of love. She's all the way from Chicago, another bright and fearful woman that actually went through the process, and now she gets, as well as you do, to share this story for other families and other women in the same situation. Rosa Pedrosa, which if I'm not mistaken also is a breast cancer survivor, says it's a great information, so thank you for sharing with us. We also have a guy by the name of Lorenzo Sierra. I don't know if it rings the bell. And there were countless friends who gave us strength. I am so proud of Rhonda. And he's definitely been your rock in the whole process. We have Ana Flores adding a little bit more, says, Rhonda, sharing with you the story, I think it's what empowers others. So that's amazing to see the response and how your story can so many people relate to your story. What is the one thing that you would like them to learn from your experience? What is the one thing you want to share with them? What is the one lesson that they need to learn without going through the painful process?
From a practical standpoint, taking care of yourself matters. Being religious about mammograms and being an advocate for your own health, that's important. From an emotional, even a spiritual standpoint, I think that the lesson for me is sooner or later in life, we are broken. We become broken. And it is grace that is the glue that mends us.
I love those words.
I think more grace and more mending is needed, not just in our individual lives, but also in our community and in our world.
What is next for Rhonda Cagle after beating cancer? Oh boy.
I was going
Hold
to
on
say,
to your seats.
You'll have to ask me back so we can have that conversation.
I hope Lorenzo's ready to put the seatbelt on, because I know it's just going to take off with strength.
I think the thing that's next for me is really just that joy barometer. What is it that's giving me joy in life? How can I invest more into that? And how can I continue to have real purpose in ways that matter and make a difference in our community and in the lives of families and children?
You mentioned family a lot. You mentioned your faith, the strength that you had there. How did this difficult situation strengthen, or for the lack of that, went to the other extreme, hinder a lot of the close relationships you have, like with your daughter, your stepsons, or your husband, or really close friends? Through this process, were you able to see who really was there for you?
Absolutely. And the truth is, it surprised me. I was not aware of how many people were my friends. I spend, as you know, a good amount of my time on the road from my job, and it was incredible to me to find out how many people do love me and are friends, and that was surprising for me. If anything, it's made our family a whole lot closer, and it's helped me realize I have a lot more friends than I realized.
Well, I know we just kind of like tickle the curiosity for a lot of people. Where can they hear or find out more about Rhonda Cagle, the battles, the projects, and all the amazing work that you do in our community?
Folks can visit rhondacagle.com. I do have a website, and I have a few of my blogs up. I'm actually in the process of writing and putting together my book, and I will have that hopefully soon. But in the meantime, rhondacagle.com.
And we'll definitely bring you the unveiling of the book here with Mary Rabago. We have about 30 seconds only, Rhonda. I want to know what have changed within yourself. What is the one thing that you can say that you're thankful to cancer for?
I'm thankful for the ability to see my family and my friends come around me in ways I was not aware of. And I'm also, I am less hesitant to step out. If there's something I want to do, or even something that I think I might want to do, I'm going to step, because I've fought really hard, and life is really short, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your amazing story. Thank you for giving the strength of all those families in need of the same situation. And this will not definitely be the only time that we sit down here and talk to you. Thank you for being with us con Mary Rabago today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do not forget to share this link to learn more about our guests. And thank you for supporting our journalism with a purpose. Hasta la próxima.